Hey there, Eli coming at you again from OSA Coventry, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about freshwater puffers. It is undeniable that pufferfish happen to be one of the most personable and rewarding types of fish to keep in your aquarium. It's hard to beat those cute little eyes and the way that they'll greet you at the glass, and they seem like they're quite an inquisitive animal. They're generally pretty smart, and that makes them a really rewarding pet to keep in a tank. A lot of times people consider pufferfish to be only a saltwater or a very large tank option. However, I do have 3 types of puffers in stock at the moment at our Coventry store, but that kind of proved that idea wrong. I have 3 different types of freshwater puffers at the moment. Each and every one of these actually really does prefer soft freshwater, so there should not be the need to add any sort of salt to the aquarium other than your typical aquarium salt. And these guys tend to do a little bit better in smaller aquariums. So if a pufferfish is something that's always been on your list, these guys would be a pretty suitable option for a smaller freshwater aquarium. First and foremost, I have these adorable pea puffers here. These are one of the smallest species of pufferfish known to man. These guys only get about an inch in size. Oftentimes, they're not even going to reach that long. They will live probably 3 to 5 years in captivity, and generally they can be kept in small groups as long as they are offered enough hiding space from one another, and if they are fed a well enough diet to keep them from being aggressive with each other. Generally, we consider these not to be a community species. This is something that generally you want to stick to a species-only aquarium. So keeping a small group of these in a 20-gallon, 30-gallon aquarium, somewhere in those lines, is most appropriate to make sure that they don't nip at other fish's fins and to make sure that they get along in the long term. As for diet, almost any of your pufferfish are only going to eat frozen and or live foods. My favorite to feed the pea puffers is going to be a mix of brine shrimp and bloodworms of the frozen variety. Sometimes you can get them to eat freeze-dried, and on occasion I've even seen pea puffers snack on Hikari Vibrobites, which are a good pelletized option that kind of resembles a bloodworm. However, I would make sure that you are offering frozen food as a staple diet. It's a little bit more nutritious for the animal, a little bit more natural, and they are going to feed very well on frozen food. And one thing worth note with your pufferfishes is that generally their fused teeth in the front will continue to grow throughout their life. So just like a fingernail, on occasion those need to be trimmed back. So offering something that lives in a shell is a very good way for them to grind their own beaks. Generally offering small snails in the aquarium, like a bladder snail or a pond snail, a little ram's horn snails, will give them something to forage for, something that they can hunt down in the tank, and that shell helps to grind down their beaks so that they do not get impacted. All in all though, these puffers are a great option for a smaller aquarium. They are the smallest puffer you can get away with, and they are generally quite rewarding and hardy as long as you are meeting that dietary and space requirement. All in all, these are probably my favorite puffer to work with just because they're so darn cute. Now at our Coventry store, I also happen to have these beautiful Amazon puffers in stock as well. These are going to be a medium-sized freshwater puffer. These guys reach lengths of between 2 and 3 inches full grown. As their name suggests, they come from the Amazon River Basin, whereas those pea puffers come from areas around India. These are coming from South America. These are generally considered a community pufferfish, so unlike a lot of your others, they tend to be one of the easiest types of puffers to mix with a community aquarium. That being said, it is in most pufferfish's nature to be moderately aggressive, and a lot of pufferfish are prone to nipping fins, especially flowy fins on some larger fishes in the aquarium. So keeping that in mind is very important with the Amazon puffers if you do plan on putting these in a community tank. As much as they are probably the best option or the easiest option for a community freshwater aquarium, they still might be a little bit aggressive and they still might nip fins of other fishes. To mitigate that, offering them enough space to pace around is definitely very important. I would personally consider anything in the 50-ish gallons plus range appropriate for these guys. Again, they're almost going to reach that 3-inch mark. And as you can see behind me here, they're a very active swimmer. So most of their time is spent swimming from side to side of the tank. So offering them nice open space to roam is definitely important in keeping them entertained. And just as with your pea puffers, these are going to only really eat frozen or live foods. Offering snails on occasion, again, is going to be important for that beak of theirs, and having a staple diet of mysis, brine shrimp, bloodworms, and krill is going to make sure that you can keep these guys fat and happy in the long run. Generally, I have seen best behavior out of these fish if you do keep them in a group. Some people do have decent luck keeping them singly, but in the wild, these do form decently sized shoals or schools. So adding 5, 6 at a time to a tank, as long as you have the room for them, is going to give you the best results with these puffers. They're going to be the most comfortable in the aquarium, and they're most likely going to behave the best as long as you add them in decent enough numbers. If you do plan on keeping a group of these, I would say go with the largest number that you can, because sometimes adding only 2 or 3 at a time will cause them to form more of a hierarchy where they can pick on each other. So generally adding a good number at one time will mitigate any aggression between the puffers themselves and give you the best, funnest behavior out of these fish. These are also quite a rewarding fish to keep and should get along in a lot of your community style aquariums as long as you pick your inhabitants wisely. Last but not least, I do have a third species of freshwater puffer available at the Coventry location. In this tank here, I have some really cute avocado puffers. They are called avocado puffers because they... Now these avocado puffers, as the name suggests, do resemble little avocados in the tank. They are also sometimes known as olive puffers or golden puffers. These do come from areas in Asia. They come from rivers. And if you can't tell from their body shape, they are definitely built for speed. These are definitely an animal that likes to swim, so offering them a good amount of tank space is going to be important in making sure that they are happy in the tank. The avocado puffers generally will reach about 4 inches or so in length, so I would say nothing less than a 75-90 gallon aquarium is going to be most appropriate for housing these guys. And again, this is a puffer that you can totally get away with in a group if you wanted to, but generally, just like the Amazon puffers, keeping them in the largest school that you are comfortable with adding at one time is going to make sure that they behave the best with one another in the aquarium. These are another species of puffer that can be borderline community fish. However, as with most other puffers, they are definitely prone to nipping at fins. And I would say if you do plan on keeping these with other fish, plan the rest of the tank around having faster moving fish. That won't be something that are so tempting for these puffers to pick at, and definitely staying away from anything with long flowy fins is always a good rule of thumb. As a larger species of puffer, it is definitely important to offer these a little bit larger of a meaty food. These guys are really liking larger frozen krill, in addition to chopped silver sides, chopped squid, but they will also eat things like mysis, brine shrimp, and bloodworms like the rest of our puffers do. A really good offering for these larger body puffers too would be occasional frozen clams on the half shell, and offering these clams gives you the same benefit of snails with the smaller species of puffers in that these guys can crunch at the shell and it helps to grind those teeth plates down so that they do not get an impacted jaw. However, these are really fun, a more difficult fish to come by, something that we don't see very often, and it's always a treat when we get them in the shop, and something that is quite rewarding to keep in a freshwater aquarium. However, these are going to need the largest space requirement of the other types of puffers, and in my opinion would probably do the best as a solo species grouping as well. As always, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you found the topic of these cute little freshwater puffers to be something interesting, and I hope you learned something new today. As always, feel free to leave questions, comments, suggestions in the comment section below, and keep it fishy.